Okay. There could be different customs, but I don't know what they mean accepted halakha.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Today we're going to start Daf Yomi Warriors. That means 71. 71A. It's the middle of the page. We did the Mishnah already. We're talking about the second Arus, the second husband annulling vows from the first husband. First husband divorced her, and on the same day. Sorry? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we thank Hashem we're able to learn every day. So we're learning, we should have some English immediately. Okay, so it starts like this. Tanya Kavasei de Shmuel. Bring a brisa that supports Shmuel. But Shmuel told us a halacha and the support for the halacha that vows that the first arus, first husband heard about, the second husband and the third and the fourth and even the 100th can still annul if it's all on the same day. That was Shmuel's halacha. Okay, so what's the support for this? It goes like this. Nara Murasa, a young girl that's betrothed. Avio Baila Mifir Nedara. The father and the husband can annul the vows. Keita, how is this? Shama Avia Vehefala. Let's say the father heard about the vow and he annulled it. He says, Mufalach, Mufalach, Mufalach. The vow is annulled for him. The husband doesn't hear about it. The husband was there, but he doesn't hear about the vow, and he dies. And she gets engaged to someone else, betrothed. Even if that happens 100 times. So the father and the new husband, the latest husband, are the ones that can annul the vow. Now the rule is that because it's the same day that the father heard the vow, so a husband is allowed to annul vows. The betrothed husband is allowed to annul vows that were taken prior to the betrothal, because he does it together with the father who's able to annul vows prior to the betrothal.
Well, he needs his father.
So together with her father, they can annul those vows that came before. Okay, now over here, the Arus did not hear. The first Arus did not hear about the vow. He died before he heard about the vow. So from this, we have no proof.
Is there a difference of vows taken before betrothal or when they're betrothed?
Not for this, no. But what we were thinking was there is a difference between if the Arus hears about it and then dies, and he didn't do anything, or if the Arus didn't hear about it. If the Arus didn't hear about it, we have no question. That's our case here. The Arus didn't hear about it. That Arus means the betrothed husband. He didn't hear about it. So the new husband can do the annulment because he's allowed to annul vows that were taken before the betrothal. Okay.
What if the first betrothed husband heard about it?
That we're going to see in the next case. Now, I just want to point out before we do the next case that we did have a case before where there's a father. The father hears about a vow and he annuls the vow.
Or there's
and there's an Arus here. Now the Arus, the case before was the Arus does not hear about the vow. And the Arus died. Now the question is, when the father originally annulled the vow, he only annulled half the vow because there was an Arus there. We have to wait for the Aris to hear, and the Aris would have to do the other half. Now there was a discussion: can the father, after the death of the Aris, go and annul the vow a second time, replacing the Aris? So we said that would be a difference if we say that the Aris or the Baal, if they chop it in half, the vow, and then we would say, well, he annulled one half. Now he can just annul the other half because he inherited the Baal is the husband, the Aris. So if we say that the vow gets chopped in half, each time one of them annuls it. So then we would say that the father annulled his half, then the Aris dies, and the father will annul the second half of the Aris. Easy. But if we would say that it's miklash kalish, that meant that it weakened. The father did not annul half. He just diluted it. He made it weaker. And so now he can't really inherit from the Aris what was remaining because that's not substantial enough. So now, if that would be the case, he won't be allowed to annul the second part. Okay. Question is now, we just said that the Aris
In that opinion, why couldn't he annul the other half?
because what was left remaining to the Aris to annul, which he didn't because he died,
Yeah.
and he didn't hear about it, that was so weak that it wasn't something substantial that could get passed back to the father, that the father can now just do that again. We say that still remains lingering on, and it was never wiped away. It was weaker. If it would be something substantial, then we could say that could get passed back.
We said something that was substantial, something that affects the husband or affects their.
Well, we're really doing it. Yeah, besides for that's one point. What we're really doing is, what does the annulment do? Does it chop the vow in half? Like if she took a vow not to eat 2 olives, so the Aris says mufalach, okay, now she can eat one. The father says mufalach, now she can eat the other one. That was one way. And if that's the case, then over here, if the father says mufalach, okay, so one of them you can eat. Now the Aris dies. Now the father wants to annul the vow that was the full vow, so he has to annul the other half, which was fine. But if you say that it just dilutes the whole thing, then we said that maybe it doesn't get passed back, or if that's the case, it doesn't get passed, and the father cannot annul it. That was the opinion of Beis Hillel. Now, I just want to finish the point. So if that's the case, so what happens over here? The father hears a vow, and he annuls it. The husband does not hear the vow, and he dies. We're saying that the father, together with the new husband, can annul the vow. And 1 second, you told me before that the father cannot annul the vow. Well, the truth is, before we didn't say the father and the new husband can't annul the vow. We just said that the father can't annul the vow. So the Ran says that it's very possible that Beis Hillel, which said before that the father cannot annul the vow alone, would say over here that the father can annul the vow together with the husband. Because the husband, although we said before that when the vow gets weakened, it doesn't get passed over to the father, but there's two things that have, there's 2 ways of passing over, of like inheritance. One is that I have to take a vow and move it over to the father's jurisdiction and he can annul it. The other one is that I take a person and replace the Aris. So because here I'm replacing the Aris, even though the vow itself I can't move over into the father's jurisdiction because it's too weak to move it, but the Aris could be replaced. And it's very possible that over here, Beis Hillel would agree. Okay.
If the vow is so weak, you can move it. Like, why does it stand if it's weak?
It's here. It's too weak to move, but it's still a prohibition.
But it's strong enough to stand. Like
Strong enough to stand.
It's like the opposite. I would say, like, if the fiance passes away, like the only one that could annul it would be the father.
You know, sometimes there's a stain, right?
Okay.
We still have the principle that
So
you can't do it alone.
associated with
Yeah.
the
I had the impression they were just going to change the Mishnah to make it work.
Wait for the next case,
So far,
because it's
isn't
gonna
that-
get a
so
little
far,
bit,
isn't
so
that the
far,
way?
yeah. So far,
Thank you.
so far, we
Must
haven't
be
seen that
alone
he's
now.
gonna do it alone. Okay. Just saying that this, sometimes you have a stain, that you can take it out, but the very, very end of it is still like this residue that doesn't come out. So you say, but look, you took out most of it, and also that's the weakest part. What's left is just, where can you get out that little weak part? That's the last bit.
But the one that is like the strongest part. That
That's
doesn't
the
go
part
away.
that doesn't go away. So it doesn't go away, but you still can't do anything with it. Okay. Next case. The way I taught this right now, where I explained it, is according to the Ran, that what we're about to say in the second case, that there's in the next case that we're about to learn, there's going to be a machlekes Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. That only applies to the second case. The first case, Beis Hillel agrees. Still agrees that it would work, and we explained how. That because as you'll see. Okay. Shama Baila. Let's say the husband hears about the vow. Now, Ran points out, of course, it's not a husband, it's just the betrothed husband. Behefala, and he annulled it. But the father doesn't hear about it until the husband died, the aras. Well, the father's alive, it's just the husband that died. But the husband already annulled it. So we have an annulled half a vow. And now the father hears about the vow. So the father can then go and annul the portion of the husband. Now, the husband's part was already annulled. But because he dies, it has to get re-annulled because he's not around anymore. It's batla. It goes away. Now, doesn't explain why that works. That's what it says, that if the husband dies, so unless it was annulled together with the father, then he died. Maybe that's what's going on. We said that they both had to be there and
His
annul at
action
the same
wasn't
time.
complete. He did what he
Right.
needed to do with the whole partial.
And so
what he-
therefore it comes back. Now, if it comes back, getting back into this machlekes between, let's take 1 second. We'll take this stuff because I don't know if you noticed the Ran, the size of the Ran. You see that it's on the next page.
Here till the end, we have that problem.
No, but take a look at the size. So the father, of course, needs to annul his own portion of it because he never annulled his own portion of it. The husband's portion of it was annulled, but it flips back because he died. So the rule over here that was given was that the father can annul the husband's portion. But of course, that means that he can annul his own portion as well. So he annuls his own portion and the husband's portion, and all is good. Now, what we were trying to do, let's not lose focus here, what we were trying to do is to bring a proof to Shmuel, which Shmuel said that if the husband hears a vow and annuls, a husband hears a vow and doesn't annul it, and then he dies, and the new husband can annul the vow together with the father. That's what Shmuel said. So right here, we have a vow that the first husband annulled. I guess it doesn't matter if he heard it or he doesn't hear it because now he dies, so it comes back, it resurfaces, and the father now wants to annul it. So we have a rule that the father can annul it together. The father can annul it. Now,
Alone.
alone. That's the rule. The father can annul it alone. Now, we don't have a proof to Shmuel because what we wanted from Shmuel was that a new husband was going to annul it together with the father. Over here, we just have a father. We don't know what's going to be with the new husband.
But even when this husband annuls his half, it's not really annulled because he has to annul it
Together.
with the father.
Right. Right. So therefore,
it's
when
not
he
like
dies, it's not considered annulled.
But it's not like it comes back because it never left. Because it was never known.
Oh, it's never fully annulled. Right. Right. Right.
How could another man want to marry this girl? It's the first husband he got.
It's an accident.
3 accidents, 4 accidents. After a certain number, it doesn't.
100 accidents.
Is it 200?
Right.
This is good because the father can hurry up and annul it before she remarries. So that she's coming
It's
in,
clear.
so she's clear. Where we are right now.
But the father won't be able to annul it without a new betrothed husband.
Well,
If the other one, if the first one passed
We
away.
just said this opinion, he could do it alone. There's a problem with Shmuel, right?
Well, it doesn't support Shmuel if he does it alone.
Right.
So let's take a look a little further. Amar Rab Nassan. Rab Nassan is a friend of Reb Meir.
He's
Still
earlier-
in the Brisa.
He's
We're still
earlier-
in the Brisa. We're in the middle of the Brisa.
Earlier than Shmuel.
Yeah, yeah. We're in the middle of the Brisa here. So it's yeah, a lot of times it gets confusing when you have in the Brisa, you have like a challenge to it. You're not sure if it's coming after the Brisa or if it's part of it. Has to be part of the Brisa. Amar Rab Nassan Heinin Divrei Beishamai. What you just told me that the father can annul the vow alone, that would be the words of Beishamai. Now, if you remember, Beishamai said that if the husband each one of them annuls half the vow, like if there were 2 olives, she said she's not going to eat the 2 olives. Each one annulled one of those olives.
You could split it.
You could split it that way, but that's how the Beishamai viewed it. And then if one of them dies, then the other one just annuls the other one. So good. So here the husband annulled his half, and the father is now going to annul his half and the husband's half that died. But Basil says no, you can't be mefer. You can't annul it anymore. My pligi, what's the machlokes here? So now that we have a Beis Hillel, when you see the words of Beis Hillel, you'll see that Beis Hillel will actually support a Shmuel.
Just do the wrong.
The Ran over here introduces well, there's 2 parts to this. One part of the Ran is he introduces a complication on if you say that when someone dies, it's batal and everything reverts back. So why do you make such a big deal before about Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai? Do you divide it in half? Do you not divide it in half? If it's batal, it's batal. If when they die, it goes away.
Matzah is nullified.
Yeah, it what they did was nothing. So then why was there even a machlokes here? And then he gets into it's like unclear exactly, like very difficult logic. Like it's very fine, like what he's saying. And then his next part of this is, well, the next part of it is the discussion of Tosfos. The next part of the round is discussing Tosfos' view that both the first part of the Brisa and the second part of the Brisa, both of them are in the machlokes Beishami and Beis Hillel. We didn't do that. We learned it the way the Ran says, where the first part of the Brisa everyone agrees to. The second part of the Brisa, first part of the Brisa was when the father heard, but the husband didn't hear, and the husband died.
Well, I could. There's like a.
Yeah, you can summarize it in the comments, I'm sure, dealing with it.
Yeah.
But I should point out that when the Ran is difficult and you want to get it in the summary, it's probably difficult in the summary too. I don't think it's okay. Now let's read the Gemara. Beishamai Savri, Beishamai holds Nedarim Nami. The Ran makes a big deal about the word Nami. It's complicated, and actually the Bach takes it out. You would read it, I guess.
What's it, Nami too? What's it also too?
Oh, the Bach adds it in. Nedarim Nami Shiro La'aras. Vows also.
Vows and what's the also?
Yeah. Well, if it wasn't near Allah, is there really a difference here according to Beishamai? So we'd go like this. Beishamai Savri Nedarim Nami Shir Allah Aris, Nisreikner Shuslav. That even if the Aris did hear about the vow before he died, but when he does die, it goes back to the father's jurisdiction, it reverts to the father for the father to now annul it. Omega's Gaius, and now the father can annul it. Omega's Gaius is explaining that because the vow was cut in half, so now we have the problem of if it's cut in half, but why is it reverting back? But there is something that's left here for the father to now to annul. There's something substantial that the father can annul. That's what it would mean. Megas Gaius, according to Taisvis, it would be something else. Basil Sabri, Basil says, "Avio baila achron mifir nederev v'lei megas Gaius." Basil says, the father alone can't do it. It's the father together with a new husband that can do it. So back to that second case over here, that if the husband heard about the vow and he annuls it, but the father doesn't hear about it until the husband dies, then he wants to annul it after the husband died. The only way that would work would be if there's a new husband that's annulling it together with the father. A new husband annulling it together with the father, that goes back to support Shmuel, and we have a brisa that supports Shmuel that a new husband can annul vows even that the first husband had heard. That was what we were looking for over here. Okay.
But he had heard and nullified, right?
It actually doesn't matter if he nullified it or not.
Also,
In this case, it would be that he did nullify it, but we're saying because he dies, the nullification is nothing, so it comes back.
and how does the timing work? Like, it will be 20 till sunset of the new husband.
It all has to be on the day that the father heard it, because once one of them hears about it, the timer starts ticking. And they have, yeah.
That makes enough sense. Based on like if your spouse dies, then it's almost as if that in and of itself is a nullification.
Right.
In a way. You know, I think I don't.
Okay, we're going to see in a second something similar to that.
You mentioned that the new husband inherits. Like, the
That's what
rights
we
of
were
the-
explaining, that the new husband
Yeah.
steps into the place of the old husband. And even though we had an issue with that before of the father taking it, but here because the new husband goes in, that wasn't an issue. Okay. Now the Gemara has a question. Yiboilu. Gerushin kishtika damya, it's supposed to be a dalet over there. Oika kama damya. What happens if the husband hears about the vow? Talking about an aris, really.
Has a get.
Yeah, aris would also have a get.
He has a get.
When he divorces her, the whole time we're talking about dying, right? But if he divorces her, does that mean, and he heard about the vow, does that mean,
After he's divorced.
no,
Oh,
before he's
before
divorced.
he's,
He hears about the divorce. He hears about the vow and then he divorces her. Does that mean that he was silent? Or does that mean that he wants the vow to exist? Do we say that the divorce itself is like an establishing of the vow?
But is it silent and one of the words exist the same?
It's almost the same. It's one slight difference. Silent still gives a chance for someone else to annul it. Establishing the vow doesn't give a chance for anyone else to annul in the rest of that duration of the day.
I would think that
Right.
the divorce would be a reaction to a vow.
Right. Well, maybe the divorce, that's probably part of the question. Do we say that the divorce is a reaction to the vow? And that means that he's establishing the vow. Yeah, okay, you vowed, okay, that's it. You vowed,
Oh,
I'm out of here. So he's
Well,
establishing the vow.
Why would he have to?
I mean, he could have nullified it, but he's like, no, that vow, okay, that's your type. You're vowing like that. I'm out. Or you're out. Okay. So
It's not baseball. 3 strikes.
Lamai nafkamina. So what's the difference if we say that the gerushin, that the divorce is an establishing of the vow, or is it annulling the vow? Lamai nafkamina. Kigain shenodja v'shama baila v'gersha v'ahadra b'yayma. Then the difference would be like this. She took a vow, the husband hears about it, and he divorces her. But then, as he walks out the door, there's a marriage counselor, gets them back together, right? Or it could be, which it doesn't say this, but the Ran adds in that the same thing would apply, that he walks out one door and some new husband walks in the other door, and now she gets remarried to someone else. It doesn't have to be him, it could be someone else. Only thing is, you would have to wait 3 months, and that would be that question. If it would be himself, he wouldn't have to wait 3 months. I don't think they have to wait 3 months from if he remarries his divorcee. I don't think waits.
This wouldn't apply if it was a Cohen.
If it's a Cohen,
Would it be able to-
if the second husband's a Cohen, that would be problematic, yeah.
no, or the same one? Like, you can't
Or
remarry
the
him.
same one, right? Now, if the master would say that it's like silence, it's still the same day. No one established the vow, he can still annul it. But if you say that it's establishing, it was already established. You can't go back and retract on that. Definitely after Kadei Dibur, there's a certain amount of time that you have that you can like retract it. And I didn't mean that, but this is definitely after that. So you can't annul it anymore. So Tashima, let's go to the top of the page. Page 72.
How could silence become assent if it's within the 24-hour period that he has to annul it? Because somebody could say, a husband could say, well, I have 24 hours.
Right. So silence is actually not considered establishing. Silence is different than establishing. Establishing means that now it's over. But silence means that you did nothing and you still have the duration of the day.
But after the duration.
After that is
that's-
over, then it's
that's
established. Yeah.
That's it's fine.
Right. Then it's
Whatever
Not
it
fine.
goes, it goes.
yeah, then it's no, it gets automatically established if you silent.
Her vow
Her
gets
vow gets
established.
established, yeah. He said, Tashima, come and listen. When was it said? When did they say Mesa Bal Nisreik Nurshus that if the husband dies, that the jurisdiction over the vows reverts back to the father, is man shalei shama habal. That's if the husband didn't hear about it. Or shama v'hafer, or if he heard about it and annulled it. Shama v'shasak, or he heard about it and was silent. Umeis by bayayim, and then he died. So then the father can then annul the vow. We're going to say the opposite in a minute. If he heard about it and he was established it, then the father can't annul. Or, yeah, that's we'll say in a minute. But meanwhile, what are the possible cases? Possible cases for the father to come along and annul the vow that same day. We're talking about either the husband didn't hear about it and he died, or the husband heard about it and annulled it, or the husband heard about it and was silent. And he died. If we would say that divorce is like being silent about the vow and it's not establishing the vow, why do you only give me 3 possibilities? I have a 4th possibility. 4th possibility is he heard about it and he divorced her.
So one is
The
staying
fact that you
silent,
didn't
nullifying.
say that 4th possibility means that you don't hold of that 4th possibility, which means that divorcing her means that you're establishing the vow.
What if you heard about the vow and then he died?
That's probably what happened in this case. He hears about the vow and he dies without saying anything, or he has a reaction, that's okay, you're out of here.
Is the 1 day waiting period
On my
like
phone.
what we have now, where if, let's say, someone is lucky enough to win the mega lottery or some, that they have up to a year to claim it, which within that period,
Right,
silence doesn't mean anything.
right.
So the
Right.
Shtika Keldar Dummy is
No,
not an
there's nothing,
initial.
no. Even though he heard about it and he was quiet, that doesn't mean that he's establishing until the end
Till the end
time
of the
that,
period.
okay. The Gemara says, if it would have said, if you would agree that the divorce is considered like establishing, like if the divorce is considered like silence, so listening nami, Shama Vagirish, let the Mishnah say a fourth case that he heard about it and divorced her and it's still considered silent. Midlai Taniach, the fact that it doesn't teach this, Shema Mina Gerish and Kakamadam, it must mean that divorce is considered establishing the vow, not silence. That's why it didn't say it. Gemara says,
Because it's considered final because he took action.
because he took an
Removed
action,
from himself the ability
Right.
to.
something like that. That's a good point.
When he was married, he could never say a word. So he got divorced.
In the best, and they had a very cynical joke about you have to be very careful who you marry, because if you get divorced, you're gonna have to deal with them.
True, that's not a joke. No joke. It's not funny because it's too true.
It's for men who have never been divorced.
Okay. So, Ema Seifa.
It's scary. This is all in jest.
Ema Seifa. Let's. We think we have an answer, but we only read half a sentence here. Let's see the next part. The next part of that Mishnah said, "Aval im shama v'kiyem shama v'shasa kumis b'im shalachrav." Let's say the husband, he heard the vow and he established the vow. He heard the vow and he was silent for the entire day, and he dies on the following day. So then the father, the father cannot annul the vow anymore. So he either established it or he didn't annul it on the same day, and he died. The husband died on the next day. The father didn't get a chance to annul it on the same day. So those are cases where the vow is established. And if you're going to say that getting divorced is considered like establishing the vow, so why do you only give me two cases? Give me a third case. Listen, let it teach. Or he heard it about it and he divorced her. Trying to give me cases where it gets established. You missed out a major case. It must be the fact that it didn't teach this. It must mean that divorce is considered silent. Now what we have is what's called diukum seisrim. We have the implication of the first part of this teaches me one thing. The implication of the second part teaches me the opposite. So the implications are contradictory. It says from here you obviously can't prove one way or the other because one of these cases, either the beginning of the Mishnah, the end of the Mishnah, was specific about leaving it out. The question is which one. If it was the first one, then we didn't say that in the Seifa because we left it out because we didn't say it in the Reisha. And if it was the Seifa, we didn't say it in the Reisha. So the reason why it's not in either of them, one of them is for a good reason, the other one is for just because it wasn't necessary. The Seifa dafka nasav Reisha mishum Seifa. And if the Seifa is specific, then that it left it out, then the Reisha is there only because of the Seifa that it left it out. The Seifa left it out on purpose, the Reisha. So one of them was on purpose and one not. We don't know which one, so we can't prove it. Should we go a little further? Yeah. We can finish the Tashima. We're getting a little ahead. Nadra Bihiarusa. Let's say she took a vow. She's betrothed. And she gets divorced and she gets remarried, re-engaged, re-betrothed. on that day, even to 100 different people. That means divorced and divorced and divorced. It's fun. So, Avio Baila Achar Mefir Nedara. We learned that her father and the last husband can annul the vow. Now, everyone would agree would agree to this if the husband didn't hear about it. First husband didn't hear about it. Question is, if the first husband did hear about it, then Shmuel would say again that the father and but Beishamai wouldn't agree. Okay, well, Shmamina, we see from this, look at what happened. Gersten Kishtika Damu. Obviously, the divorce is like being silent. How could the last husband annul the vow? The first husband divorced her. If he would have established it, can the last husband annul vows that the first husband had already established? Can't be. It was the same day, but nevertheless, if once it's established, it's over.
But in the example that the first husband had passed away, it said that the next husband inherits, and since it's the same day, wouldn't the next husband be able to, since he inherited the? Or in this
That
case,
was
because
here.
he's
If he
alive.
established it, here passing away is different than divorce. Passing away, we know, is not considered establishing a vow because he didn't give up his rights to annulling the vow. We're saying, Naftali explained that when you divorce her, you're giving, you know that from now on you're not going to be able to annul the vow. So that giving up of those rights is establishing the vow, possibly. That's our question. But dying is not willingly giving up the rights to annul the vow. That he died. There was no action on his part, that I don't care about annulling your vows anymore. And so it should be considered like establishing.
But
So
if he commits suicide. then there was an
whoa,
action.
that's a famous year.
Well, then there was an action. He said, you know what? Hell with your, heck with your vow. And he goes and jumps.
I told you I don't like the vows.
Like he doesn't like to look. Goodbye. Here's an action.
That's a good point, actually. Good question.
There's two ways out. Could say over my dead body, he dies, and that.
Right.
You can divorce
Right.
him. If you divorce her, that establishes the vow. If he drops dead, silent.
Right.
Two ways out.
So,
Therapy, so that's it.
yeah. So Hachamai Eskina, and the Gemara answers this question because it seems to be that we have a proof that it's not really a question. The Gemara rejects the answer. Seems like we have an answer here. The answer would be that obviously getting divorced is like being silent, because if it was like establishing, then how could the last husband annul a vow that has already been established by a previous husband? So the Gemara says, here we're talking about for the first husband that didn't hear about the vow. Easy answer. If that's the case, the Gemara says, so why were you so specific about that it was all on the same day? That she married 100 husbands and divorced them each. And it's only on the same day. But if none of them heard about it until the last husband, so then why does it have to be all on the same day? Could be any day. It says, the husband didn't hear about it. The father heard about it. So once the father hears about it, the timer starts ticking till sundown, and then you don't have a chance after that to annul it. So all of those husbands, even though none of them heard about it. Okay.
So the father's hearing starts the timer for the husband.
So it starts the timer, and the same thing would be for the husband's hearing, starts the timer for the son.
Why are we saying because they could have, should have, would have told the other person?
No, it's just that the ability to annul the vow is only until nightfall, only that day. Now, from when they hear it. and they need to both annul it together, or in the same day, right, without any changes. So if one of them hears about it, his opportunity is only till then, and then it's over.
But he also had the opportunity to share that knowledge.
He had the opportunity to share
But
it,
he didn't.
and he didn't. He didn't. But I don't know if that's whatever the case is. They weren't in contact.
But didn't we
Yeah.
say earlier with the case with the marriage where the woman or husband, one of them had a dam in an area that the other relatives, the women would see it in the mikveh, they would have told and this and that.
Right.
So the knowledge was out there
Uh-huh.
and there was okay to get the divorce. I'm just saying, if the knowledge is out there, over there, we said that was enough. And here we're saying the knowledge is out there, but it's not.
No, we were saying that once one of them hears it, the timer starts.
I cannot speak anymore because my lawyer is holding my time up.
He's starting the
Okay.
24-hour timer.
Tashima.
I would say that. I don't know.
Give
There's
it-
reason to think that the husband would tell the father, or not tell the father, depending
Right.
like on whether or not he wants someone else to hear about it. Sometimes he might have
Right.
another party to hear about it,
Right,
so that he won't annul it or something like that.
right. That could be. Or I don't think there's any claim on either of them that you should have told the other party. I think each one has supposed to annul it. They don't have to do it exactly together. They just have to do it
If you're saying
during that
you need
day.
two people
You do need two people, but each one hears about it and say, "Oh, that should be annulled."
if the clock starts when one person hears about it, I don't think
No.
that's fair.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because then the other might not
Right.
go to the other. It's like, I don't want this person to
Right,
annul it or say-
right. That's what you were saying, I
It's the
guess.
same thing.
Uh-huh. Okay, Tashima, we're going to try to prove it again. So far, we were talking about a case where the husband did not hear about the vow. We had a question, so why is it all the same day? Because the father heard about the vow. Tashima, Nadra by Bayan, Gersha Vechsir by Bayan. She made a vow that day. He divorced her and remarried her that day. Ein Yachal Hafer. He can't annul the vow. Shmamina Grushin Ka Kamadam. Obviously, the divorce is like establishing the vow. Why else can't he annul it? Where it says, Amri Hacha Benesua Skinan. Here we're talking about a woman and a man that were fully married, not just betrothed. Now, the rule when it comes to fully married is that you can't annul vows that were taken before the marriage. By a betrothal, you can annul vows that were taken before. But over here, either the first marriage or the second marriage is considered a full marriage. Now, if it's the second marriage, then it wasn't annulled before the new marriage, right? It wasn't annulled before, and now once they're married, he can't annul vows that were taken before the marriage. That's the full marriage. If it's the first marriage that was the full marriage, and the second one is the betrothal, it doesn't matter, because the first marriage already takes her out of her father. If it's a full marriage, she leaves her father's jurisdiction. And the whole ability of a husband to annul vows that were taken beforehand, I'm explaining it later on, spells it out. The whole ability to do this is based on the father that's always able to annul vows because there is no prior to the father, right? So therefore, once she leaves the father's jurisdiction, now in the second marriage, even if that's only a betrothal, the husband can't annul any vows from previously. So behind the time of the because the husband can annul vows that were taken previously. Now, which leaves us that we don't actually have an answer to the question that we asked: is divorce considered an establishing, or is it considered just being silent? Okay, so kayach, everyone. Have a good day.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is this found